Hey everybody, there's an intro in the video you're about to see coming up, so I'll skip all that. But just so you know, I've been working on a video about Deadly Sport, which is an unreleased game which was developed alongside Survival Arts by the same team. While I was doing that, I came across contact information for Sam Radetzky, who played none other than Dantel in Survival Arts. That's the final boss. As you know, the game used motion capture just like Mortal Kombat. So I reached out to him, and he very graciously and very quickly, might I add, responded, and we set up a time to meet over Skype. And what you're about to see is that interview where I sat down and asked him a few questions about working on the game. A few things to note: this was done over Skype, but he was keeping his daughter and didn't want to reveal her identity to the internet or show her to the internet. So by his request, I cut the video and we just did audio only. A second thing to note is the game actually misspells his name with an O. So yes, his name is Sam Radetzky, not Rodetsky, as the credits in the game paint, but we know that Survival Arts is full of errors. Anyway, I'm going to quit talking and let you get to the interview with Sam Radetzky, who played Dantel in Survival Arts. Hey, Toronto fans, it's me again. I've had a very, very special treat for you today. You guys know how I like to do weird and obscure gaming videos and talk about games that no one else does. One of my favorite obscure games that people probably wonder why I like it so much is Survival Arts, as bad as it is. And unlike the digital actors from the Mortal Kombat series, who have been interviewed thousands and thousands of times by hundreds of people, people forget that digital actors were used in Survival Arts, and they are all very much real people. And today here on Skype with me, I have Sam. Is it Sam Radetzky? Is that how you say that, sir?
Yes, it is.
Sam Radetzky, who played none other than Dantel in Survival Arts. That's right. The final boss of Survival Arts is joining me on Skype today. He's been very kind enough to sit and answer a few questions, and I'm going to turn it into a YouTube video for you all to sit and watch. And I'm sure that you could, if you have additional comments, you can leave them down below. But anyway, we'll just jump right into this. Sam, thanks again for letting me interview you. This is a dream come true for a small channel like mine. I'm no PewDiePie. I've got about 410 subs at the time of this call. So this is it's a great thing to talk to you. Let me start off and say that.
Oh, my pleasure.
So first off, can you just tell us a bit about yourself and tell us how you ended up doing filming work for Survival Arts, of all things?
So I lived in Tokyo, Japan from 1988 to 1993, so about 6 years. And I was studying martial arts there. And I was training at a place called Ashihara Karate, which was at the time was kind of a new revolutionary knockdown karate school. And I was training at the Tokyo headquarters. I think there's one other foreigner there during the years that I was there. So it was kind of underground, but had a reputation for being a really tough school. And my teacher was one of the top fighters around in Tokyo. So people would often come in and watch and talk to him. And if I recall, just one day there was 4 or 5 young Japanese guys in there in suits watching. And afterwards, the teacher called a bunch of people over, including myself, and kind of explained some stuff to them and kept gesturing these guys. And one of the guys in the suits stepped forward and he gave a little speech. And I caught like about half of it because it was a lot of specialty stuff, like computer generated modeling was way beyond my conversational Japanese. And so we did like an audition. We did a bunch of kicks and punches, and the teacher just led us through a bunch of stuff. And then afterwards, they chose myself and another one of the other students, a guy named Kato. And then it was kind of explained to me, in simpler Japanese, like what was going on. And they asked if I'd be interested in doing it. It was for pay, and I was like, sure, it sounds great.
That's fascinating. I feel for you. I actually speak Japanese myself, but it's very conversational, and that keigo is killer. That was probably my least favorite part, was the business Japanese and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, much less technological Japanese. I mean, I had no idea what, like, for example, computer modeling would have been. And actually, I probably wouldn't have understood it even in English, in all honesty, what exactly meant by that.
So had you ever heard of like Mortal Kombat or any of the other games that were using similar technology at the time?
Honestly, I mean, we're talking about 1992 or 1993. I really don't remember. I've never been a big video gamer. I'm not very good at them, which is probably one
Hmm.
of the reasons. And I would go into the arcade now and again, but my main memory of video games from even before that is stuff like Donkey Kong,
I got you.
and Galaga. So I never really played too many video games. I tried Tetris a couple times, and again I was really bad at it. So I don't believe I've ever played Mortal Kombat. So I just can't say. I'm sorry.
All right, that's all right. So just some background. So Mortal Kombat was obviously the big thing during the 92, 93, 91, and that time. And so it used the digitized actors and had like the very graphic blood effects and that kind of thing. So when Mortal Kombat did that, there was kind of a gold rush, so to speak, with, oh, if they did it, we can do it too. And Survival Arts was one of those games because it does have the digitized violence and like the blood, and it uses real actors turned into sprites. So
I see.
it was part of that gold rush. I don't know what you've heard about Survival Arts. Most people, unfortunately, due to no fault of your own, would not say it's a very good game for some other reasons we may talk about later. But could you tell us about the day-to-day filming for Survival Arts? Like, how long did it take, and what were you kind of doing day-to-day in the studio with these guys?
Sure. It was just it was one day. It was for me. It was just a couple hours. I went to I showed up at their studio, and it was I put on like a black, like what we would consider like a black like lycra wear with
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of I don't even really know what to call like sensors on them. Like the
Yeah,
kind of thing like you would have if you were going to have like EKG checkup or something.
yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah,
all over them, and then the costume on top of that. And I had a wig on, and I believe it was like a big purple cape
it
kind of
was. Yeah.
thing. And it was really easy for me because it was as like the top guy. I think I shot like fireballs or like lasers out of my hands. I think I spit something like fire out of my mouth or maybe something from my eyes. It was all very magical or supernatural. So I didn't really do much in terms of physical activity, and I was kind of in and out, in all honesty.
Okay. So some information, just so you know, did they tell you anything about like who your character would be or like what their moves were and that kind of stuff, or just kind of
Y-
say, just do this?
yes, yeah, no, they did. They explained that it was like the highest level person,
Mm-hmm.
and thus like he didn't do things like roundhouse kicks.
I
That
got you.
highest level person. It was just a basic. It was like really, like I said, very advanced stuff. A lot of magic, a lot of fireballs, laser beams, that kind of stuff. And so I remember doing a lot of slow motion, like I'm, pushing stuff out of my hands, like
Mm-hmm.
forward, shooting stuff out of the hands. Kind of similar to like Iron Man does now, that kind of stuff. And then
Yeah,
they showed me how it then they would have it on the computer, and it was really interesting to see that.
yeah, and that makes perfect sense because Dantel is the final boss in the game. I played a lot of games throughout the years, and you can kind of spot a game that was done very quickly. And I kind of get that feel about Survival Arts. And Dantel is like the story is very minimal. It's essentially like there's this guy named Dantel, and he's making all his successors fight against each other in this post-apocalyptic world. And that's kind of all you got. But what you said makes sense because all of Dantel's moves, like you do a punch and a sword shoots out of his hand. He spits fire and lasers, exactly like what you said. It's kind of funny that, I've looked at your history a little bit, and you're a pretty proficient martial artist, if I do say so myself. And
Oh, thank you.
it looks like you got the least uh, physical exertion possible, and they could have done so much more with you. So I hate that. But the one like physical move Dantel has is like a kick where he just like sticks his foot out and it slides across the ground like magically, and that's the only physical thing he really got.
Yeah, I was like I said, I was in and out. It was easy. So I think they paid me about $300. Of course, the equivalent in yen,
Yeah.
and I was in and out. And the funny thing is that the next week, like it was on a weekend, and then the next Monday when I went to class, I compared notes with the other guy who was chosen. This guy named, like I said, Kato,
Hmm.
and he played like some kind of ninja, and he said that he was in a hood and everything, and he had really spectacular kicks, which is probably why he was chosen.
Hmm.
He said it was one of the hardest things he's ever done in his life because he had to do all these spinning kicks and these high kicks really slowly over and over and over again. And he was complaining it was just hours of him doing this. He was super sore. He almost didn't want to come to class that night because he was so sore from doing it. And I was like, "Oh, really? I was in and out in like an hour or two. I didn't have to do anything." And he got paid the exact same thing I did.
Oh
So I
no.
remember him being a little like, not like like with good humor, grumpy
Yeah.
about it.
Well, the character he played is actually called Hiryu, and he is a ninja, like you said. And the funny thing is, like, remember how I told you silent survival arts feels very rushed. Fighting games are kind of my forte, and there's a lot of work, like in any fighting game, that goes into balancing it and making sure that any character that you pick is not just too incredibly strong, because otherwise the game's not that fun to compete in. But survival arts is completely broken, unfortunately. It plays very well, but there are some things, like there are some characters that in a competitive session you would never want to use because they're just too weak. Hiryu is not a character like that. He's incredibly strong. He has more moves than any other character in the game, and they are very like lots of spins, lots of kicks. He can hang off the wall. No other character can do that. He can throw shuriken, all kinds of crazy stuff. So it sounds like they put him through the ringer, but as far as his character is concerned, it really worked out, I think, because he's the best in the game as far as people you can play as. You can't pick your character, unfortunately, without cheating, to be honest.
Oh, really? Well, he was a great fighter in real life. So, and he was one of my seniors. I learned a lot from him. So I'm glad that at least he had a strong character.
So do you still keep up with Kato-san then? Do you still talk to him?
I don't. I haven't been back to Japan probably since 2002 or so, and I kind of lost touch with everybody. I mean, if you recall, back before things like Facebook and Skype, like what we're on, it was really hard to
Absolutely, yeah.
keep in touch with somebody, especially somebody like me who spoke decent Japanese but had extremely poor reading and writing skills, because I just kind of learned it on my own. I didn't study it in
Gotcha.
formally in a school or anything.
So would you say most of the guys that they did the motion capture work, were they mostly Japanese guys? I know that the guy that played Gunner, Brian Creech, he's not Japanese, but I didn't know. What would you say the ratio was there?
I honestly don't know, Trent. That's all I know is myself and
I got you.
Kato-san. Yes.
I got you. So I don't know if you've seen it. There's about 7 or 8 characters total, counting the boss, and most of their faces are like obscured and things, so it's kind of hard to tell, like, if it was like an American or if it was a Japanese person or whatever. So I just wondered about that. So
I saw the game one time. I was actually back here in America. I was in a movie theater. And I was like walking by to my theater, and they had a row of a couple of video games, and I just noticed one of them was Survival Arts, and I was like, oh my god, I'm in that movie. I'm this years ago, of course. I'm in that game. It's years ago, and I went running over and I pulled a cord out of my pocket and died in like 30 seconds. So I didn't get any. I played it probably 3 or 4 times, hoping to get to my character, and I didn't get anywhere near my character because I knew it was the top character. So unfortunately, I never actually saw it myself in action, and that was the only time I've ever seen the game itself.
yeah, that's unfortunate you didn't get to see it, and that's a common complaint, believe it or not, with Survival Arts, is the first, like, it's a set order that you fight every time. And the guy, the first guy you fight, his name is Mongo, and the actor that they got to play him, I don't know if you've ever seen that old show Coach, and Hayden Fox, the guy that played, he's like a balding middle-aged man. He looks exactly like that. That's the first guy.
Yes, I do believe you.
Yeah.
I think I know it. Oh, that's what he looks like?
Yeah, he looks just like that guy, and he has an attack that can actually kill you in one hit if it hits you just right. So most people play the game, and exactly what happens to you happens. They get there and they get bombed by Coach, and then they say, I'm never playing this again, and they walk off.
Yeah, I think that was exactly my experience. But like I said, I'm bad at video games as it is. So
well, I wouldn't hold it against yourself, because Survival Arts is a very hard game to get through unless you sit and like study how the CPU reacts, because it's very, what we would say, cheap. I mean, it just kind of reads your inputs and it beats you, and you kind of have to just watch, because the computer will respond similar if you do the same things. So you kind of have to just kind of game the system really to get to the last level. But I think I sent you the video today, so you can check that out sometime, and you can see what you look like and see all your moves and see all the other characters. So I got a few more.
Sure.
So do you know anything about Survival Arts besides the fact that you were in it? I think you pretty much answered that. You saw it one time. And,
yes,
didn't get to go very far. So Survival Arts is, unfortunately, it's not a very good game. That's through no fault of your own. You know, all the actors did a great job with what they had, but just the backgrounds are kind of rushed, and it's not really a very balanced game. And but it's fascinating to me, these stories, because like everybody cares about Mortal Kombat and they want to know about these people in it. But you were in this game, and so that's infinitely more interesting to me, which is why I wanted to have you on. So, was this the only time you ever did anything like this? You were never approached about doing any other games for Sammy during that time?
No, unfortunately, this was the only time, and I would have happily have done more. Like I said, $300 at that time was a good chunk of money to me. I mean, it is now as well. So I would happily spend an afternoon doing exactly the same thing again, but that was the only time it ever came up.
So, besides the money, what would you say was your favorite part about it? Was it just the money, or did you just, I don't know, was it a lot of fun to do, or what did you think about it?
It was fun to do, but I think that in retrospect, especially, like I said, I don't know anybody. In my email to you, I mentioned that I don't know anybody who's ever done anything like this before, and I don't think they're doing anything like this now, unless there's kind of a special genre of games where people are still doing this kind of live modeling. And so it was, it's kind of a unique thing to be able to say that one has done that.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Mortal Kombat did it for Mortal Kombat's 1, 2, and 3 used that technique, and by that point, it was starting to become a little passé. So by the time they went to MK4, that was completely thrown away. And there's not really very many games, like you said, that do that anymore, because at the time it was groundbreaking technology. I mean, it was the thing to do in your game, especially in America. Mortal Kombat was crazy hit here, but you just don't see it anymore. So, you know, I think that's absolutely true. It's a very unique thing that you'll always remember doing.
Yeah, and actually, a couple of my students about 4 or 5 years ago somehow found this on the internet, and they were asking me about it. And probably more than anything else I could have done, this kind of like made my star rise with my students that I had done this.
So they were impressed by the fact that their teacher could shoot laser beams and put blades out of their hands and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with my sparring ability or my fight record or anything. The simple fact that I had been in a video game as a fighter, something like Mortal Kombat, which was much more respectable to them.
So I know you've got to leave here before too long for work, so we'll just wrap up with a few simple questions. So what are you up to these days? And obviously you said you don't really play video games anymore, but what are you up to nowadays? Anything you'd like to share?
I still teach martial arts. I'm in Santa Cruz, California. I teach at a place called Kaijin, mixed martial arts. Everybody from just people that are just completely in it for like recreation, all the way up to I've even coached some professional fighters that went on to fight in Bellator.
Okay, very nice. I'm actually a brown belt in Ishinru. I don't know if you've heard of Ishinru karate.
Oh, of course I have. Yes.
Yeah, big Ishinru guy. I started doing it in college and had a chance to train with Arsenio Advincula, who trained under Tatsuya Shimabuku.
I know both names.
Oh, you do? You know, a small world, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I've never met them myself, but I read all the time, and I'm really into martial arts history. And I've been training now since I was 15 years old. So that's a lot of pages turned and a lot of dojos tramped in. So I have a ton of respect for any kind of martial art.
What'd you say your style was called again, just so everybody knows?
Ashihara Karate.
Ashihara.
IHARA.
Okay, excellent. Well, I know you got to get to work, and I really appreciate your time here. Is there anything else about the process or survival arts or gaming or life in general you'd like to share with us?
Oh, gosh. I mean, life in general, we could talk a long time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially to karatekas, I guess.
Right, exactly. No, I like I said, I'm sorry I couldn't add more. It was just a small afternoon, a small kind of piece of something I did. It wasn't a multi-day thing. So unfortunately, I don't have anything to add. But like I said, it was a unique experience, and I appreciate you kind of bringing it up and reaching out to me, and if nothing else, reminding me of a fun time.
Hey, no problem, man, and I appreciate you so much. And I guess if we have any questions for you in the comments, I'll try to pull those and send you an email in case we have enough for follow-up. Because you would be surprised, like Survival Arts is a really obscure game, and I've got a really small channel, but if I go to YouTube and I look at like my statistics, the videos I've done on it are some of the higher viewed. So apparently the people like it, so we're going to give the people what they want. So
okay, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And actually, if you could just send me the link when you even post it, I'd love to see it myself.
Yeah, no problem. I just cut the video out since we just kind of did a Skype call, so I'll put some gameplay of you in the game, and I'm actually working on another video right now because while Sammy was developing Survival Arts, which you were in, they were also developing another game called Deadly Sport, which never released. The only thing, there's no video footage of it. The only thing we have are some flyers and like some screenshots, and the sound designer put the soundtrack online, so we have that. And so I was actually, that's how I found you. I was doing a video about that game. And so, yeah, I'll send you a link, and hopefully that'll go up too. And you can get involved in the community, so to speak.
Oh, love to. Thank you.
All right. So thanks again, Sam Radetzky. Make sure I'm saying that right. Sam Radetzky, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Trent.
Talk to you soon. Bye.